Joining us now at the table, Democratic political consultant Ed Emerson and Republican Tim Rosales. Guys, welcome to the big night. Glad to have you back. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so the ballot here in California, some of those top ticket races, the statewide races, let's be honest, with the way the voter landscape is, very blue here in California, we know what's likely going to happen once the polls close at 8 o'clock, but just let's broad strokes here nationally, the balance of Congress up for grabs. Ed, I'll start with you since you're to my right tonight.
There we go.
Sorry, Tim.
At the dinner table.
Right on.
What are your thoughts? What are you watching tonight?
Well, I've got a good friend in a swing district or important district in North Carolina, so I'm watching North Carolina 13, a good friend named Wiley Nickel, and he's up now. Is
that a surprise?
You know, I think it is.
Considering the landscape in North Carolina?
Absolutely. And the guy he's running against is 27-year-old election denier, anti-abortion, ticks all the boxes for a Trump supporter. And Wiley's campaign was positive about the economy, about different things, but the attacks on him were unbelievable. The RCCC came in, hit him pretty hard. So there's a number of those around the East Coast. Polls are closing, or starting to close anyway, and it's going to be interesting to see. Florida has gone its way. That's always going to be a tough hoe for Democrats.
And those are he is one of 15 that sort of need to hold on to that margin in order to hold on to the House.
It's so tight, Eric, in the House, and it's so.
Republicans need 5 seats.
They only need 5.
And some of those could flip here in California.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, there's a ton of seats here in California. Polls are still open till 8 o'clock. So here in Northern California, in this area, people need to get out and vote. But the balance of power in Congress could really come down to what happens here in California. Now we're starting to see that, particularly in Florida and some of those East Coast states, that a red wave. I don't know if it's a tidal wave, but there certainly seems to be the indications of, that voters are checking their 401ks or checking their grocery bills, or they're filling up their gas, and they're saying, you know what, we need a change in Congress, because on the economic issues that really are driving voters this election cycle, they're siding more with the Republicans on those.
I hope it doesn't come to California. I hope that we hold the House.
Well, we saw the big guns coming in at the end of the week. I mean, we saw Governor Newsom, who really has been spending his money on his own campaign, but on Prop 1, which is the abortion proposition on the ballot, and in other states. He has been campaigning for some of the members, Katie Porter down in Orange County, Mike Levin. You saw President Biden come to the state, Kamala Harris come to the state to campaign for Democrats in those Orange County seats. So folks across the country, I was having some conversations with people like, oh, well, you guys are just all a bunch of Democrats in California. I'm like, no. There are some races in Southern California that people are going to be watching.
Yeah, well, and one of the races here that a lot of eyes are on. I mean, there hasn't been a Republican, correct me if I'm wrong, that has won a statewide office since 2006, correct?
That's absolutely right.
So the biggest chance of that happening, at least here in California, is Lonnie Chen, right, for controller.
He's the hope for the Republicans.
So he's the hope. If there is a Republican that is going to win a statewide office, he's going to be it. So what does that mean? Not in terms of controller or the job that person would do, but just as the Republican Party as a whole, to have the first Republican coming into a statewide office since 2006. It's a big deal if that happens.
Yeah, if that happens, it certainly is a huge deal. And statewide elections here in California are extraordinarily tough. But I think really, and folks are looking at Brian Daly and Lanhee Chen and Nathan Hochman and all of these Republican candidates running statewide. But I think the focus really has been, and all of the money, all of the dollars, and like you mentioned, Nikki, President Biden came in to campaign for these congressional candidates on the Democratic side who, right now, those seats could go either way. And when it comes to control of Congress, who's the next Speaker of the House? Is it Nancy Pelosi? Is it Kevin McCarthy? That is a huge decision that the country is making because they're completely two different agendas that either side has.
And it also brings to focus, I mean, you guys have been doing this a long time. And I say this a million times on the air. We know the midterms are a referendum on the current administration. The famous line from Obama, we got shellacked tonight. Over the summer, when the Dobbs decision came out on abortion, Democrats said, wait a minute, this changed things. Democrats and voters were energized again. But a day is a lifetime in politics, and you mentioned gas prices, inflation. We're really going to see how voters go, right?
I think we're seeing the choice issue moved up. It's the economy, and then choice is in second place about What is on voters' minds as they go in? Back to the California Republican Party, real quick for Eric here, which is they have to build a bench. And they have an opportunity here to capture a seat. But for years, I believe the voters, Republican voters in California moved and the party didn't. The party stayed too conservative, and that's going to work in Alabama, and that's going to work in Tennessee, and that might work in Georgia, but it's not going to work here in California. It's a different kind of Republican that needs to be motivated, and with the right candidates, the Republican Party can make a comeback.
Well, we're seeing that happen in states like New York, where Lee Zeldin is,
first Republican in 20 years, Papa. What was it? George Pataki was the last Republican governor?
Exactly, for governor. We're talking about Oregon, who could have the first Republican governor in, 50 years?
Nah.
Definitely not a red state.
Yeah,
not going to happen.
But the fact that it's even being talked about, right? And it's a conversation. Nevada, that governor's race is on the bubble.
Sisolak and Lombardo, and he came to fame during the Las Vegas shooting, obviously a tragic event, but law enforcement background.
Exactly, and I think that those types of things, and to the Prop 1 question, I think that in terms of turnout, yes, it could have had an impact, but I think in California, voters believe, hey, that's a decided issue that's not going to change anytime soon for Californians, and so therefore, okay, since that's not going to change, that's not a threat. The things on my mind are what my grocery bills are, how much I'm paying to fill up my car and gas, what the economy looks like overall. Those are the things that are really motivating voters.
It's not sports betting and dialysis.
Right. But the one thing I would
the
say,
ballot measures.
Unfortunately, no. Yeah.
To Tim's thing is that it's the conversation. The conversation a month ago was the red wave, right? There are people, there is money, there are all kinds of individuals that drive that want to drive that conversation on it's a red wave and discourage people from voting.
To stay home.
Yeah, this has been the biggest issue in the last year is voter suppression. Is that you have people with guns and bulletproof vests or whatever in Arizona standing outside polling places. Who's watching them? Whose responsibility it is to make sure that they're not intimidating voters? I'd be intimidated if I got out of a car and saw a guy over there on the corner with a gun.
24 states.
Yeah.
24 states dealing with something similar, not to the extreme that Arizona is in terms of armed guards, but 24 different states felt that it was a big enough deal that they had to have some sort of amped up security more than you would normally see.
And it's based on what? Nothing.
Right.
All right, we're going to leave it there, but the good news is you guys aren't going anywhere.
No.
You're hanging out all night long, and not just
Lionel
Tim and
Richie
Ed.
style.
There's charcuterie boards in the back. You guys are not going anywhere.
Good stuff.
All right, so our analysis of the midterm continues at 6 o'clock. Paul Mitchell, redistricting, a political data expert, is going to join us to discuss the election.